Chapter 1. The Forgotten Intelligence of Feeling. Feelings are much like waves. We can't stop them from coming, but we can choose which ones to surf. Jonathan Martinson. In a world that glorifies logic, speed, and mental strength, feelings are often seen as inconvenient or weak. We're taught to stay strong, keep it together, and not let emotions get in the way. But what if emotion is not the enemy of intelligence, but a vital expression of it? Feelings are a deep form of intelligence, telling us what matters, what hurts, what heals. They are signals from the inner world, rich, complex, and nuanced. When ignored, they don't disappear. They build up, become distorted, and eventually express themselves as stress, anxiety, or even illness. Modern culture's emotional suppression leads to inner numbness. We function, perform, even succeed, but often feel empty. This disconnection from emotion is not a sign of mastery. It is a symptom of forgetting. To awaken is to feel again.
The cultural myth of emotional weakness. From childhood, many of us are conditioned with phrases like, "Don't cry," "Be strong," "Feelings are irrational." These messages teach us to disconnect from our inner life. We learn to mask pain, fake positivity, or numb discomfort through distraction, productivity, or addiction. But true strength lies not in avoiding emotion, but in facing it with awareness. Emotional awareness is the bridge between the mind and the soul. Real-life example: a CEO who chose to feel. Mark was a successful tech CEO, analytical, efficient, and respected. But he was also deeply disconnected from his emotions. His leadership style was cold, calculated, and often intimidating. After a personal crisis, a divorce, and a near burnout, Mark began therapy. At first, he resisted the idea of talking about feelings, but gradually he started to connect with emotions he had long buried: grief, guilt, loneliness, even joy. Over time, his leadership changed. He became more empathetic with employees, more authentic in meetings, and more human in his relationships. Mark later said, "I thought my job was to think clearly, but my greatest breakthroughs came when I learned to feel clearly."
Practical exercise: naming your feelings. Take 10 minutes today for this exercise. Sit somewhere quiet. Take a few slow breaths. Ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? Don't settle for vague answers like good or bad. Use a feelings wheel, you can find one online, to identify more precise emotions. Perhaps you feel restless, hopeful, irritated, vulnerable, or grateful. Simply name the feelings. No need to analyze or fix, just acknowledge. This simple act of naming emotions builds emotional literacy, bringing the forgotten intelligence of feeling back online. Summary: the return to emotional wisdom. Reclaiming your emotional awareness is not indulgent, it's essential. Feelings guide you toward truth. They connect you to others. They reveal what your mind can't always articulate. When you learn to listen to your feelings, not be ruled by them, but to understand them, you begin the journey toward authentic self-awareness. To awaken is to stop numbing and start noticing.
Chapter 2. The body remembers. Emotions are stored energy. The body keeps the score. If the memory of trauma is encoded in the body, so is the memory of safety and joy. Bessel van der Kolk.
Emotions are not just thoughts in the mind, they are sensations in the body. Every emotion you've ever felt has left an imprint somewhere in your physical form. When you felt fear as a child and weren't able to cry, that fear didn't disappear, it got stored. When you swallowed your anger instead of expressing it, that energy didn't dissolve, it got lodged in your muscles, your chest, your gut. The body is not separate from the mind. It is the archive of your emotional history. Unprocessed emotions become stored energy. Over time, they may show up as chronic tension or pain, nervous restlessness, anxiety, fatigue or illness, emotional numbness. When you ignore emotional signals, the body speaks louder through discomfort, dis-ease, or even burnout. But when you feel into the body, gently, honestly, you begin to release these held energies. This is not about reliving trauma. It's about reclaiming aliveness.
Healing through somatic awareness. Sophia had struggled with anxiety and insomnia for over a decade. Therapy helped her understand her past, but her body still felt on edge. Tight chest, clenched jaw, knots in her stomach. Then she began somatic therapy, a body-based approach that invites awareness of physical sensations. In one session, she was guided to place her attention on a tightness in her throat. As she stayed with it, memories of childhood silencing surfaced, being told not to speak up, not to cry. She began to weep, not from sadness alone, but from the deep relief of being with what was never allowed to be felt. It was like my body had been waiting years for me to finally listen, she said. And when I did, I didn't just feel better, I felt free.
Practical exercise. Body scan for emotional awareness. Take 10 to 15 minutes for this gentle body awareness practice. Sit or lie down in a quiet space. Close your eyes and take a few deep breaths. Slowly scan your attention through your body from head to toe. Pause at each area and notice what you feel: tightness, heaviness, warmth, or numbness. Breathe into each sensation without needing to change it. If a particular area draws your focus, example, a tight chest or a knot in your stomach, stay with it for a few minutes. Ask gently, is there a feeling here that wants to be acknowledged? Don't rush. Let the body reveal what it's ready to. Often the simple act of listening begins the release. Summary: the body holds and heals. Your body is not a burden. It is your wisest emotional guide. Feelings you couldn't process before are still waiting to be heard. Tuning into the body brings access to emotional truths that the mind has long buried. Healing doesn't always come from talking. It often begins with feeling. When you feel your body, you feel your life, past, present, and the possibility of renewal. Chapter 3. From Reaction to Response. Emotional Awareness in Daily Life. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. Viktor Frankl. In our fast-paced lives, many of us move through the day on autopilot, reacting to situations, people, and emotions without even realizing it. A raised voice triggers defensiveness. A deadline sparks anxiety. A memory opens the door to sadness or anger. These reactions are not chosen. They are unconscious emotional patterns, often rooted in past experiences and unprocessed feelings. But there's a powerful shift that happens when we begin to pause, to notice the feeling before acting. This is the heart of emotional awareness, the ability to recognize what's happening inside you before it turns into a reflex outside you. True awakening means we don't suppress our emotions, but we no longer let them drive us blindly. This shift from reaction to response is the beginning of emotional freedom.
Real-life example. A teacher chooses awareness over instinct. Leah, a middle school teacher, once found herself in the middle of a heated classroom conflict. Two students were yelling, desks were being pushed, her body tensed, her heart raced. The old pattern would have been to raise her voice, demand silence, and restore order through control. But this time, she paused. She took a breath. She noticed her own fear. "I'm afraid I'm losing control." In that pause, something shifted. She didn't ignore the conflict, but she responded with a calm presence instead of panic. She gently separated the students, spoke softly, and acknowledged the emotions in the room. The tension dissolved. Afterward, she said, "By feeling my own emotion first, I could meet the moment, not escalate it." That's the power of emotional awareness. You stay grounded even when others lose balance.
Practical exercise, the 3-second pause. In your next conversation, try this practice. Before responding, pause for 3 seconds. During the pause, check in. What am I feeling right now? Is this reaction coming from old emotion or present awareness? Then respond intentionally, not to defend, attack, or please, but to express clearly and truthfully. Even 3 seconds can interrupt a lifetime habit of reaction and replace it with conscious choice. Summary: awareness before action. Most of our emotional mistakes don't come from feeling too much. They come from acting before we feel fully. Reactivity comes from unconscious emotion. Response comes from conscious presence. Mastery comes not from control, but from clarity. In daily life, the most powerful tool isn't what you say or do. It's the space you create before you say or do it. Chapter 4. The gift in every emotion. Your emotions are the slaves to your thoughts, and you are the slave to your emotions until you listen. Elizabeth Gilbert. Key concepts and insights. We're often taught to divide emotions into good and bad. Joy is welcomed, sadness is hidden, anger is feared, fear is avoided. But what if every emotion, even the uncomfortable ones, is here for a reason? Emotions are not problems to fix. They are messengers with wisdom, revealing what matters most. Each emotion holds a gift. Sadness shows what you love or miss. It connects you to your heart. Anger arises to protect your values and boundaries. It reveals what must change. Fear highlights edges of growth. It shows where courage is needed. Joy celebrates alignment. It tells you what is true and alive in you. When we learn to listen, we no longer fight our emotions. We learn from them.
Real-life example. Anger as fuel for change. Marcus spent much of his life battling anger. It often flared up in arguments or simmered beneath the surface, making relationships difficult. For years, he tried to manage it, suppress it, even medicate it. Then something shifted. Instead of pushing it away, he got curious. He began journaling each time anger rose. What triggered it? What value was being violated? He discovered that his anger often surfaced when he saw injustice in the news, in his workplace, even in his community. Rather than fighting his anger, Marcus began channeling it.
He got involved in local advocacy. He spoke up at city council meetings. He started mentoring youth affected by discrimination. "My anger wasn't the enemy, it was my compass," Marcus said. "It showed me where to act with purpose." His life didn't just become calmer, it became meaningful.
Practical exercise, journaling for emotional insight. Next time you feel a strong emotion, try this journaling prompt. What might this emotion be trying to teach or protect? What is this feeling asking me to notice? What value, boundary, or need is it pointing toward? What action, if any, does this emotion invite? Write freely. Don't judge. Let your emotion speak. Often, what seems like pain holds a deeper form of wisdom. Summary: emotions as allies. No emotion is wrong. Every feeling is part of the inner guidance system life gave you. Sadness opens the heart. Anger fuels change. Fear grows courage. Joy confirms truth. When you stop resisting your emotions, you start receiving their gifts. The goal isn't to be emotionless. The goal is to be emotionally wise, able to feel deeply and respond truthfully.
Chapter 5: Emotional Suppression versus Emotional Presence. What you resist not only persists, but will grow in size. Carl Jung. Key concepts and insights. Most of us have been taught, whether consciously or subtly, that certain emotions are too much, too messy, or inappropriate, and so we suppress. We push emotions down. We avoid them through distractions, busyness, or even toxic positivity. We say, "I'm fine," when we're breaking inside. But here's the truth. Suppressed emotions don't disappear. They hide. They build, and eventually they explode or leak out sideways. They can show up as anxiety or depression, chronic tension or fatigue, emotional numbness, addictive patterns, disconnection from self and others. On the other hand, emotional presence is the practice of allowing emotions to move through us, without judgment, resistance, or a need to fix them. When you bring gentle awareness to what you feel, you create the space for transformation. Feeling fully is not drowning. It is the act of coming home to yourself.
Real-life example. Grieving to heal. After losing her mother, Elena returned to work within a week, determined to stay strong. She avoided talking about the loss and buried herself in projects. But over the next few months, her energy faded. She felt emotionally flat, disconnected, and often irritated for no clear reason. In therapy, she was gently invited to feel her grief. No fixing, no talking, just sitting with the ache. At first, the sadness was overwhelming. But as she wept and allowed herself to be with it, something softened. There was tenderness beneath the sorrow, a sense of love, of honoring. "I had to let it break me open," she later said. "Only then could I feel peace." Her presence with grief became the portal to healing. Practical exercise. 5 minutes with a feeling. Choose one uncomfortable emotion you've been avoiding. Maybe sadness, anger, shame, or fear. Find a quiet space. Sit comfortably. Set a timer for 5 minutes. Bring your attention to your body. Where do you feel this emotion? Tight chest? Knotted stomach? Breathe gently into the sensation. Say silently, "You're allowed to be here." Resist the urge to distract or fix. Just be present. Notice how the emotion changes, not by force, but by being seen. Summary: the power of presence. Suppressing emotions creates pressure and pain.
Being present with emotions creates space and healing. You don't have to solve every feeling. You don't have to explain or justify it. You only have to feel it consciously. Feeling deeply is not a flaw. It's the gateway to freedom, aliveness, and truth.
Chapter 6. Emotional Triggers as Teachers. Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. Carl Jung. Key concepts and insights. Most people see emotional triggers as problems to avoid, or as evidence that someone else is to blame. But what if triggers are actually teachers? A trigger is any situation that brings up a strong emotional reaction: anger, jealousy, shame, fear. While it may seem like the event causes the emotion, the truth is, triggers activate old pain, unhealed parts of us asking for attention. They don't point to what's wrong with the world. They point to what's unfinished inside us. Awakening means learning to pause when triggered, not to blame, react, or escape, but to listen and look inward. The trigger is not the enemy. The trigger is the door.
Jealousy and childhood abandonment. David often felt a surge of jealousy when his partner spent time with others. He knew it wasn't rational, they had a trusting relationship, but the emotion still overwhelmed him. Instead of suppressing or acting on it, David began exploring where the feeling came from. Through reflection and therapy, he traced it back to childhood. His father had left when David was 5. That wound of abandonment had never been fully felt or healed. The jealousy wasn't about his partner. It was a younger part of him fearing the same pain again. By recognizing this, David stopped blaming. He started tending to the younger self within him, offering reassurance, presence, and love. Over time, the jealousy softened. The trigger showed me where I still needed to love myself, he said.
Practical exercise. Inquiry when triggered. Next time you feel emotionally triggered, try this reflection. Ask yourself, what story am I telling myself right now? Is it, they don't care about me, or I'm not enough, or maybe this always happens to me? Then gently explore, where did this story begin? What is this feeling trying to protect? You may uncover a younger version of yourself still holding fear, pain, or longing. Offer them presence. Be the support they once needed. Summary. Triggers as sacred invitations. We often try to eliminate triggers from our lives, but triggers are mirrors, reflecting what still needs healing. They don't show where others are wrong. They show where we are still wounded and where we can grow. Every trigger is an opportunity to move from unconscious reaction to conscious healing. Next time you're triggered, don't shut the door. Open it and meet the teacher waiting inside.
Chapter 7. Feeling Others, the Power of Empathy. Empathy is the highest form of knowledge, for it requires us to suspend our egos and live in another's world. Empathy is more than sympathy. It's not just feeling for someone, it's feeling with them. In an increasingly disconnected world, empathy is revolutionary. It dissolves judgment, transcends labels, and reminds us that beneath every face is a beating heart, just like ours. To truly feel another person's pain, not to fix it, but to witness it, is an act of sacred presence. Empathy isn't weakness. It's not about absorbing others' suffering. It's about standing strong with an open heart, available, listening, human. When we feel others without judgment, we're not just connecting with them, we're expanding our own consciousness. Real-life example. A nurse reclaims her heart. Jasmine had worked as a hospital nurse for 12 years. Over time, she became numb. The pace was relentless, the paperwork endless, and patient suffering constant. I stopped feeling, she said. It was the only way I knew how to survive. Then, during a palliative care shift, something changed. She sat with a dying woman who asked her, "Will you just sit with me a while?" There were no vital signs to check, no medications to give, just two people in a silent room. Jasmine stayed. She held the woman's hand. She felt her fear. She allowed herself to be present, fully. In those few moments, Jasmine said she felt her heart again. Empathy didn't drain me. It awakened me. It reminded me why I became a nurse. She began slowing down with her patients, listening more, feeling more. Her burnout softened, not because her work changed, but because she did.
Practical exercise. Eye-gazing. Empathy begins with presence. Here's a simple yet powerful practice. Eye-gazing meditation, 3 minutes. Sit with someone, friend, partner, or even a stranger. Sit comfortably, facing each other. Set a timer for 3 minutes. Look into each other's eyes in silence. No speaking, just witnessing. What do you notice? Emotions? Resistance? Softness? This practice can be unexpectedly profound. It strips away roles, stories, and identities. What's left is presence and a silent knowing. We are the same. In your eyes, I see myself. Summary: the heart that feels is free. Empathy is not just a tool for kindness, it's a path to awakening. It collapses the illusion of separation. It deepens your ability to feel yourself and others. It invites you into the vast field of shared humanity. When you truly feel another's experience, you expand the boundaries of who you think you are. Empathy doesn't just heal others, it transforms you. Chapter 8: The Heart's Wisdom. Intuition through Feeling. The heart has its reasons which reason does not know. Blaise Pascal. We live in a world that celebrates the rational mind. We're trained to seek logic, proof, and plans. But there's a quieter voice within us, one that doesn't shout, argue, or analyze. It feels. This is the wisdom of the heart. The heart is more than a pump. It's an intelligent center of perception. It senses truth before thought arrives. It guides not through fear, but through resonance, what feels right, alive, or aligned. Modern science is beginning to affirm this. The heart has a complex neural network, often called the heart-brain, capable of memory, decision-making, and emotional processing. When you learn to trust this deeper intelligence, life becomes less about calculation and more about connection to yourself, to others, and to what truly matters. Awakening is not just mental clarity. It is the feeling of coming home to the truth your heart already knows. Trusting the inner pull. For years, Melissa worked a stable job in corporate finance. It paid well, but something always felt off, like she was wearing someone else's life. One morning, while journaling, a thought bubbled up from nowhere. What would happen if I followed my joy instead of my fear? Her heart whispered an answer she couldn't ignore. Teach art, create, serve beauty. The idea terrified her. It made no logical sense, but it felt true. She spent the next year transitioning slowly, teaching part-time, creating a portfolio, living more simply. Today, she runs a thriving community art studio. My heart knew before my mind caught up, she says. When I listened, life flowed. Practical exercise. Morning heart check-in. Each morning, try this simple heart connection ritual. Sit quietly.
Place your hand over your heart. Take a few slow breaths into your chest. Ask silently, what do I need to feel or hear today? Wait, don't force an answer, just listen. A word may arise, a sensation, a feeling, or just a sense of peace. Trust whatever comes, even if it's silence. The heart speaks in subtleties, not shouts. Summary: the heart knows. The journey of awakening is not walked by the mind alone. Your heart is a compass, subtle, intuitive, and wise beyond words. It doesn't calculate risk. It doesn't justify or explain. It simply knows by how something feels. In a noisy world, the heart is your quiet guide. When you listen, life aligns with your soul's true direction.
Chapter 9. The Alchemy of Feeling, Turning Pain into Presence. The wound is the place where the light enters you. Rumi. True transformation arises not by avoiding pain, but by fully feeling it, welcoming it with awareness and compassion. This process is often called emotional alchemy, the ability to turn our deepest wounds into sources of wisdom and strength. When pain is met with presence, it loses its power to torment and instead becomes a gateway to healing and growth. The sorrow that once weighed you down can become the foundation of your resilience. The fear that once trapped you can become your courage. The grief that once isolated you can become your compassion. Emotional alchemy invites us to hold our suffering gently, like a tender parent holds a child, offering safety and acceptance. Real-life example. Grief transformed into song. Lila, a gifted musician, lost her brother unexpectedly. The grief shattered her world. For months she felt numb and lost. Instead of pushing the pain away, she began to channel it into her music, writing songs that told her story of loss and hope. Her raw, heartfelt songs resonated deeply with listeners, many of whom had suffered similar losses. Her music became a healing balm, not only for herself, but for millions around the world. My pain didn't disappear, Lila says, but it transformed into something that touched hearts and brought light. Practical exercise, holding your feeling. Find a quiet, comfortable place. Close your eyes and take a few deep breaths. Imagine that your difficult feeling, whether grief, anger, fear, or sadness, is a small child in your arms. What does this child need from you right now? Can you hold it with kindness and safety without trying to fix or push it away? Let the child rest in your presence as long as needed. If your mind wanders, gently return to this image and to your breath. Summary: presence as transformation. Suffering becomes strength when met with open-hearted awareness. Emotional alchemy is not erasing pain, but transforming it. Presence is the key, being fully with what is without resistance. Through this, your wounds become your wisdom, your pain becomes power. The journey through feeling is the journey home to yourself. Chapter 10. Living Awake, a life guided by feeling and awareness. To be fully alive is to feel deeply and act from that truth. Living awake means integrating feeling, presence, and purpose into every moment. Rather than seeing emotions as burdens to carry or problems to solve, you begin to trust feeling as your compass, a sacred guide revealing your soul's truth.
Awakening isn't about perfection or constant happiness. It's about being real, embracing all parts of yourself with honesty and care. When feeling leads, decisions align with your deepest values, relationships deepen, and life feels vibrant and meaningful. Real-life example: the sensitive social worker. Nina works as a social worker supporting families in crisis. Her deep sensitivity allows her to empathize fully, but it also risks overwhelming her. Over time, Nina learned to balance her emotional openness with grounded self-care. Regular meditation, setting boundaries, and connecting with nature. She checks in weekly. Am I living from my truth, or am I avoiding what I feel? This practice keeps her connected to her purpose and prevents burnout. Nina's life is not perfect, but it is authentic and awake, guided by the wisdom of her feelings and the clarity of presence. Practical exercise: weekly truth check-in. Set aside time once a week, 10 to 15 minutes, for reflection. Ask yourself honestly, am I living from truth, or am I avoiding what I feel? Where am I authentic, and where am I hiding? What feelings am I neglecting that need my attention? How can I bring more presence into my daily life? Write your answers in a journal. Let this practice be a gentle compass guiding you back to yourself. Feeling as the soul's language. Awakening is not escaping life. It is fully embracing it through feeling and awareness. Feeling is not a burden. It is your most authentic guide. Presence grounds you in reality beyond thoughts and stories. Purpose flows naturally when you live from your soul's language. When you live awake, life is no longer a struggle against feeling. It is a dance with your deepest self. This concludes our journey into the intelligence of feeling. May you walk forward with an open heart and clear presence, living fully awake.